Welcome to the Americana Bistro Grill. I'm your host, Dr. Rob here, serving you the best in Americana music, especially Americana music in the Midwest. I have here one of the greatest exponents of Americana music from the Midwest, a fellow Buckeye just like I am, Matthew French. For me, it's an honor and a pleasure having you here. I've seen your YouTubes and you're excellent.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rob. It's nice to be here, and thanks for the invite. And
For
nice
me-
hat, by the way.
Yeah, this is for thanks. This is for Stephen Turner. I love his music just like I love also Doyle Turner's music and Sarah's music and even Ted Hayashevit's music. Finally got to pronounce the name. The reason why we invited you is because of your illustrious career and the fact that you went from Ohio to Minnesota. Give me your beginnings and how you got started.
Yeah.
In Americana music.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we're fellow Buckeyes. I grew up near Dayton, Ohio, but I've been in Minnesota quite a long time now. Been in Minnesota since 2005. My background in music, really, a lot of my start was in church. Playing as a kid, playing rock and roll in the church band, trying to learn my favorite grunge songs from the 90s on guitar. And anything from back in those days, I was listening to things like Smashing Pumpkins and Bush and you name it. I was kind of in that it was in that alternative music craze of the early 90s that really helped me get my start in playing guitar. I had tried several instruments before I picked up the guitar. If you talk to my parents, they'll tell you stories about me having played the cornet. I tried the trombone for a minute, and none of those instruments stuck. But when I picked up a guitar, that was something that just hit me right in the heart. And guitar is something that I love playing to this day. But really kind of started learning my skills in the church band and singing and playing there. I was in a couple of bands outside of the church that we, kind of traveled around sort of the Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana scene and played gigs here and there. And that was a whole lot of fun. We had a little, the family that I traveled with had an RV, so we felt like rock stars. We had had our own place to stay and got to play these shows, and those days are just fun when you're you're just learning your instrument and you're learning what your voice is like and you're learning how to fit in with a band. So that's how I got my start in music. As far as the Americana scene, of course, a lot of playing in church up until around 2014, 2015 mark, which, kind of, I'll say it with a smile on my face, but when I got divorced in 2014, and that was like, okay, I have this choice in life where I can do anything that I want now. I've got a lot of free time on my hands, extra time. And there were many things that I could have chosen to do, but I chose to get more involved in the music scene here. So I started writing my own songs. I started going out to other people's shows, and a lot of the folks that you've mentioned here, like Sarah and Ted, that's how I met them. Just going out to shows and hearing other people's music. And I have to tell you that the music scene kind of became my, it saved me in a lot of ways at a moment where I was really in kind of a down spot. Learned about writing songs, but also about how music brings people together and how that cultivates friendships. And that's, like how I met you. I wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for some of these other folks that have connected us. So it's just been a beautiful journey since then.
Yeah. And we're glad that you've had the beautiful journey. You said that you were in church. I read in your website that you were a minister. How did you transition from minister to musician?
Yeah. So I was a minister kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s, and really enjoyed that. Of course, part of that being a minister was music, and part of it was public speaking. And I think, certainly as a musician, you want to be able to talk in front of a crowd, and you want to be able to, hopefully communicate as clearly as you possibly can. So um, that was, part of my journey to becoming, someone who could hopefully be up in front of people and feel rather comfortable in certain ways. I also did a lot of music there in the church as well. But that transition really looked like I just, sort of decided that I wanted to take a different career path. So I started working in the corporate world. And then, of course, when you work in a different thing that's maybe not meeting your passions of your heart, you want to do some music again. So getting back into music, the through line here is that I've always been involved in loving guitars. Ever since my parents bought me my first guitar at, I think I was 15 or 16 years old, I've always loved guitars. So even when I wasn't necessarily performing or playing in church or playing gigs or those kinds of things, I've always been really into that side of music, and it's something that that I'm still into today. But the transition from I needed to be able to get my passion out into the world, and so that's really how I transitioned from this minister to corporate world to now, kind of singer-songwriter person.
And we're glad that you're a singer-songwriter. Of all the guitars that you have played, which has been the best for you?
I've tried all of the major brands of acoustic guitars anyways. Martin, Taylor, and I've landed on Gibson. Gibson somehow speaks to my ears and to my heart. And so I consider myself somewhat of a collector as well. So, I have a few guitars that I'll take out on gigs and play. And then I have a few that stay in cases, vintage guitars from, I think the earliest one that I have is from 1956. And so, I love that collector piece. I love learning about the history of Gibson guitars, and I love, just sort of following and gathering whatever information I have on them. It's sort of my, some people might be a history buff for the history of our country, and I love that stuff. But also, I'm a buff for history of guitars, Gibson guitars in particular.
Great. I've seen in all of your videos that I've seen that you did duos with Sarah Morris, along
Yes.
with other artists. One of the two of the songs that touched my heart was you did a duo with Sarah Morris, "Song for the Asking," which was a Simon and Garfunkel cover. In
Yes.
fact, I was so impressed. I heard the Simon and Garfunkel original, and then I heard your cover with Sarah Morris, which is excellent. And then you also did a duo called "Drunk on Your Love." How was it doing a duo with Sarah Morris and with other artists?
Yeah, I think that you find, there are so many talented artists here just in the Minnesota area, but then you find folks that you really gravitate towards. And so I met Sarah out on I think I saw one of her gigs somewhere and just went up and introduced myself. And then I asked her to come and sing on my record that the song "Drunk on Your Love" was on. And in fact, I think that there's some lyrics in that song that Sarah and I wrote together. I kind of had this basis for a song that I thought was pretty good, but I knew it needed some work. So, it's always fun when you can give to another artist and have them put their unique spin on it. And she really did. Um, it's always a joy getting to sing with Sarah. Um, we I'm fortunate enough to get to do a lot of gigs with her as well, but in particular, "Song for the Asking," her and I sang that at a Simon and Garfunkel tribute concert that happened here in Minneapolis. And we kind of talked about that night that we would want to record it at some point. So during the dark days of the pandemic, I recorded my parts in my bedroom at home, and Sarah recorded her parts in her bathroom at her house.
Where she does the toilet tubes.
Yes. And then we sent those recordings off to an engineer who kind of put everything together. And then the really fun thing about that is you'll hear a lap steel, pedal steel guitar line that happens in that song as well. And that is somebody that I found on YouTube who is actually based over in Germany. And so I said, well, how we're doing this remote recording. So I'm going to reach out to this guy and ask him if he'll play on it. And he said, sure. So I sent him the song and he played on it. So, you have folks recording in Minneapolis, you have folks recording in Germany to get that one song out into the world.
Yeah, I did love it. Plus, I saw in your website some of your albums, Winding Road, which is very beautiful, which you had Drunk on Your Love. And the other one that really impressed me was two sides, side one and side two, in which there's one part of you, one face facing, I think, eastward, and the other one facing westward. Reminds me of some of the stamps that you would see in Europe of kings, queens, or whatever, but it was really, really, really great.
Thank you.
I call it postmodern art. What inspired you to do the cover for two sides, side one and side two, and what inspired you to record the CD two sides and then Winding Road?
Yeah, I think so. For two sides, it really started out, the original concept was, I thought, I kind of have some songs that are sort of more acoustic, sort of singer-songwriter, quiet. Then I have some things that, I don't play tons of like super hard rock and roll, but some things that are a little more rock and roll. And I was going to do, one side was going to be the quiet songs and one side was going to be the louder songs. But, as we got into the studio and again, we started recording that album right when almost to the day that the pandemic sort of went into full gear. So that process really took me through the two sides of kind of processing, both what we were going through individually and what we were going through collectively. And so I kind of tried to put a group of songs together for side one that was sort of, kind of the, I don't know, less hopeful themes, maybe. I feel like there's always a tinge of hope in in everything that I do. But, and then side two, sort of coming out of that darker time. So that was really the theme there. And I worked with a visual artist out of Vancouver, Canada. His name is Marcus Reland, and he helped me put the artwork together. So, sometimes when you have an idea, it doesn't quite come out the way that you intended it, but this time it really all came together in a way that I'm really proud of. Going back to Winding Road, which is my EP that I released in 2016, a lot of those songs came from that time of post-divorce and really kind of processing the ups and downs of life. I think that's really probably where the song Winding Road comes from, that it's things that we don't expect to happen in life happen. And we need others to kind of come alongside us and lift us up. That's always one of my favorite songs to play live, Winding Road, because the end just repeats the phrase, keep moving forward. And I think that's just a good reminder for me and hopefully for listeners as well.
Great. What are your plans for the future? Your projects for the future, concert wise, CD wise?
Yeah, I've got I have a few shows coming up. Sarah and I, in fact, have a few things coming up that you can find on my website, mfrenchmusic.com. But shows will be posted there, and we have a couple of really cool things that are coming up with friends of ours that haven't been announced yet, but will be announced soon. So hopefully keep an eye on that website for those. As far as recording, I literally just in the last couple of weeks here kicked off the process of recording the next album. I kind of have a thought on what the title is going to be, and I have an idea of songs that will be on there, but still really sorting through a lot of our friends and you follow along with the songwriter challenge, where we're, kind of right now we're writing a song a week. And so, when you have, I think I had maybe when I went in to think about what I wanted to record on the next album, I had whittled the full list down to maybe like 20 songs that could potentially make it on the album. And then maybe 10 actually make it to the recording. So really just in that process of sifting right now.
Great. And we're very happy for you that you're doing all of this recording, and also the fact that you've done not only singing with Sarah Morris, but you also sang with Ted Doyle.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm remembering the four of you in the car, in the truck, and there was also the toilet tunes in which the four they were in a hotel room. I think it was during the Midwest Country Music Organization Award.
Yeah, that one was, where were we at that one? We were at a Folk Alliance conference when we did that in the bathroom. But the van song that you're talking about, on the way back from the Midwest Country Music Awards, we said we're going to write a song in the 3 hours that it takes us to get from where we are in Iowa back to Minneapolis, and we did.
Yeah. For me, it was a pleasure and an honor having you in the Americana Bistro Grill, and we hope it is not the last. It was a pleasure and honor having you, and we also want to invite all other Midwest artists to come in and be interviewed so that we could promote them.
Awesome.
And I also want to thank Steve Turner for the nice cap, which is great. And also, even though I don't receive any compensation, I'm also promoting another Buckeye product. This t-shirt and my jeans and sandals are courtesy of the All American Clothing Company of Ohio in Arcanum, Ohio. I'm promoting them not because I'm getting compensation, because I don't get any compensation from them. It's because I love them, and I also want to promote not just made in USA, but also made in Ohio. For me, it's a pleasure and honor having you here, and I wish you the best. And for everybody in the Americana Bistro Grill, remember, peace in, peace out, and peace everywhere. Like this. Don't leave.